In 1966, when Star Trek, the original series, first boldly went where no one had gone before, television was a very different frontier. Networks played it safe. America was in the grip of social upheaval, civil rights struggles, Cold War anxieties, and a rigid sense of what was acceptable for primetime storytelling. In that climate, Star Trek quietly did something radical. It disguised commentary as science fiction. It slipped ideas past the gatekeepers by wrapping them in alien worlds, distant planets, and futuristic dilemmas. But even then, there were limits. There were topics America simply wouldn't touch in 1966. Interracial relationships were controversial enough to trigger backlash, as seen in episodes like Plato's Stepchildren, which pushed boundaries just by suggesting a kiss between Captain Kirk and Uhura. Discussions of systemic injustice, gender roles, and authoritarian control were handled carefully, sometimes softened, sometimes buried beneath metaphor. Now, decades later, Star Trek is no longer constrained by those invisible boundaries. And in the era of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, the franchise is doing what it has always done best, holding a mirror to society. But this time, the reflection is sharper, bolder, and far less restrained. The episode America wouldn't dare touch in 1966 is not just about pushing shock value. It's about confronting issues that, even today, remain uncomfortable. Imagine a story that doesn't just hint at division, but explores it head-on, not through metaphor, but through direct confrontation, not through allegory, but through lived experience. In this hypothetical episode, the crew of the Enterprise encounters a civilization where truth itself is regulated. Citizens are assigned narratives based on class, identity, or political alignment. To question the official story is to risk exile, or worse. The Enterprise crew, as always, becomes entangled in the moral consequences of intervention. Do they uphold the prime directive and observe, or do they intervene in the name of truth, risking destabilization? What makes this kind of story so powerful is how it echoes real-world dilemmas. It draws parallels to censorship, propaganda, and the fragility of truth in a world saturated with information and misinformation. It forces characters and viewers to ask uncomfortable questions. Who controls the narrative? And what happens when truth becomes negotiable? Back in 1966, such a premise might have been too direct, too provocative. The networks would have hesitated, fearing backlash, sponsors, or political consequences. But today, Star Trek has the creative freedom to explore those ideas fully. It can lean into discomfort, challenge assumptions, and refuse to provide easy answers. This is the evolution Gene Roddenberry envisioned. Star Trek was never meant to be safe. It was meant to be necessary. It was meant to challenge the present by imagining a better future. And sometimes, imagining that future means confronting the parts of society we'd rather ignore. An episode like this doesn't just belong to modern Star Trek. It was always part of its DNA. It's just taken this long for the world to be ready to see it clearly.